So a very good evening to everyone. So as per today's schedule, which is day one of learning deep learning basics, let's get into the day one, which is introduction to Linux and how Linux is used in industrial applications. Let me So when we think about operating systems, most of the people think of Windows, but there is a powerful player that quietly runs most of the world's technology called Linux. So let us know about what is Linux, who invented Linux, and why we use Linux, what are advantages and disadvantages of using Linux. So first, let's begin with what is Linux. Linux is a free and open source operating system based on Unix. Developed in 1970s at AT&T Lab, Bell Labs. It is created by Linus Torvalds in 1991. So as we have doubt about why we are using Linux instead of Windows. So to clarify this question, Linux runs everything from Android phones to servers, supercomputers, and even spacecraft systems. So, one of the fact or one of the surveys says that 96% of the top 1 million web servers use Linux. So now let us know why we use Linux. The first thing is free and open source, where which is very free and anyone can use, modify and distribute. So no personal work or developers are restricted to use, or we can pay money to use it. Second one is security, where there is no malware effect to the your systems when you are installing Linux or when you are using the Linux. And the third one is performance, and the performance is very efficient as compared to the our Windows system. So where Windows is very used in our personal use, where and when it comes to develop a application or develop a product in industries, most of them use Linux. And the fourth one is community support. Yeah, many of the developers who are introduced Linux, thousands of contributors continuously improve it by day or monthly. They can introduce different or develop the version of the Linux. So and the last one is customization. So we can customize as per our wish, where we can be tailored for personal, academic, or enterprise needs. Based on your needs, you can use the Linux in an efficient way. We can have an examples for Linux are Ubuntu, which is user friendly, Kali Linux, which is cybersecurity, CentOS, which is enterprise. And let's know about basic structure of Linux. The first one, which is as we know, the hardware devices, which is our CPU or PC, and the second one is kernel, the which is the core of the operating system. It handles memory, processes, and device control. There are few types of kernel: monolithic kernel, microkernel, and hybrid kernel, exokernel. So one of the main example of using kernel is Android uses a modified Linux kernel. So all our Android devices which are we are using have a modified Linux kernel application. Second one is system library. The pre-written code that applications use to interact with kernel is called as system libraries, where the code is pre-written and the applications can be interactive with the kernel, so use system libraries. So one of the main advantage of the using system libraries is it saves developers time, ensures consistent performance. These are the main two advantages of using system library. And the third one is shell. So it is a command line interface that translates user comments. So the machine could not understand what was the language we are giving to it. So we have few commands. So the shell converts or translates the command lines. So the popular shells are bash, ZSH, fish. So let's have an example. Typing in list files in the current directory is an example for using shell. And next one is hardware layer. So the hardware layer means the physical devices such as CPU, RAM, and input output devices. The kernel manages the communication between hardware and software, and it is responsible for maintaining the connection between the hardware devices and the software devices. And the last one is system utilities. The tools to manage system utilities are mainly used to manage the system functions like file management, network configuration, software installation, and system monitoring. Okay, it's up to the structure of basic structure of Linux. And let's come to how Linux is used. Let's have few applications where Linux is used. The first one is domain example uses. First one is server and hosting, like powers Google, Amazon, and Facebook servers use Linux. For development use, the programming, testing, and CI or CD pipelines. For cybersecurity and ethical hacking, Kali Linux is used. For embedded systems, routers, IoT, drones, and smart TVs, Kali Linux is used. For supercomputers, 100% of the world's top 500 supercomputers run Linux. So, education free learning platforms for system administration. So, we can use personal use Ubuntu meant for daily use, lightweight, and which is very fast. So, let's know about some advantages of Linux. So, as I said, I use Linux, which is very free and open source, highly secure, and which is fast and stable than the Windows which we are using now. And the Windows update is maybe late, maybe it can be from years to years, but the Linux can be updated recently, and which is very great for networking and servers. Some of the examples for advantages of Linux is NASA and SpaceX use Linux in their space systems because of its reliability. As one of the project of NASA and SpaceX rocket, they have used Linux because of its more reliability than Windows. So one of the disadvantages of the Linux are, which is not beginner friendly, which means the beginner cannot maybe much knowledge about the Linux commands. We have to learn about Linux commands. So there is a limited driver support for some new hardware, fewer commercial games or software,